Tonight, governors of Oyo and Ondo states asked traders in troubled Shasha markets to stop hostilities, just as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo sues for peace. Suspected herdsman killed 3 farmers at Ijugbere farm settlement in Owo area of Ondo State. Federal government begins consultations, stakeholders engagement, and other interagency coordination over rising insecurity. And Western embassies caution Myanmar military against use of violence against protesters, plus sports and other stories. End the hostilities and let's embrace peace. That's a message from the Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde and his counterpart from Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, today as they appeal to all aggrieved traders at the Shasha market in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, to give peace a chance. The governors appeal to the traders to stop the destruction and embrace dialogue as the way forward. Their plea is coming in the wake of hostilities between traders at the Shasha market in Akinyele local government area of Oyo State following disagreement between a man and a woman that led to the death of one person.
Governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State arrives at the government house in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, to commiserate with Governor Seyi Makinde over the crisis that recently rocked the state. The delegation makes its way to Shasha Market in the Akinyele local government area, which has known little peace since February 11th. This carnage is the result of an argument between a cart pusher and a woman, which led to the death of a man who intervened after he was allegedly hit by the cart pusher. Governor Akeredolu addresses the crowd, pleading for calm. In the meantime, a curfew has been imposed in that area.
We will ensure that criminals masquerading as hoodlums will be fished out and dealt with. We have to do quite a bit in terms of normalizing the situation out there. You can see lots of people, their means of livelihood, are basically gone. So what do? We have to try and see what we can give as palliatives immediately.
Meetings are expected to be on with the sole objective of reaching an amicable way of resolving the crisis.
Meanwhile, the president has condemned the attacks across the country and is promising that his government will protect all religious and ethnic groups, whether majority or minority, in line with its responsibility under the Constitution. The president made the comments in a statement a while ago in a reaction to the reports of the breakout of violence in some parts of the country, some ethnic and sectional groups. The president warned that the government will not allow any ethnic or religious group to stoke hatred and violence against other groups. The president also condemned such violence and gave assurance that his government will act decisively to stop the spread of any such violence. He appealed to religious and traditional leaders as well as governors and other elected leaders across the country to join hands with the federal government to ensure that communities in their domain are not splintered along ethnic and other primordial lines. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has condemned the violence that led to the loss of lives at the Shasha market in Oyo State. He has joined the call for peace between northern traders and those in the southwest. The Vice President says Shasha market has been a melting pot for traders, bringing in foodstuff from the north to the southwest for decades, and they have lived in peace and even intermarried. The Vice President says when a disagreement arises between individuals or a criminal act is committed by one against the other, we must ensure that we see it for what it is, a criminal act which must be punished according to law and not an ethnic conflict. Professor Shibajo said every Nigerian has a constitutional right to live, work, and enjoy their lives in safety, peace, under the law. The Vice President also explains that it is the duty of the government through the police and other law enforcement agencies to arrest and prosecute any person who commits a crime against a citizen of this nation, and it is also the role of the citizen to assist the police in identifying criminals. He made the remark during a condolence visit to the residence of the late Chief Lateef Jakonde in Lagos, where he met with family members of the first civilian governor of the state. We're staying with security matters. The governors of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, and his Zamfara State counterpart, Alhaji Bello Matawale, have also lent their voice to the discussion on security. Governor Tambuwal is asking Nigerians to work hard to save the situation, as the development of any nation depends heavily on how safe it is.
Without security, there cannot be any development. There cannot be peace. And you need peace, you need security to govern. And you need peace and security for even business transactions and even worship. So it's key and very fundamental to any development of any society. So my charge is that all of us as leaders must come together, work together, irrespective of whatever views we may have in terms of approach to how the challenges should be resolved or solved. We should all be seen to be working together and come up with a synergy, with a template for resolving all of these conflicts.
From Governor Matawale, whose state, Zamfara, is regarded as the epicenter of bandits in the northern part of the country, calls on governors to be careful with their utterances, which may derail peace efforts.
I have been fighting for 2 years for this issue of banditry, and which I thank God that we recorded a lot of successes on the fight against this banditry. But you know, as a person, I cannot fold my hand and see my people being killed. So I have two approaches in this issue. I have kinetic, we use kinetic and non-kinetic approach on the issue of this insecurity. And I'm calling to all my colleagues that we have to be very careful. We are all together, we are the same. Nigeria is one. We shall be preaching peace wherever we find ourselves so that we can keep, you know, Nigeria to be one.
Both governors were speaking at the residence of the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, when they went to pay a condolence visit to him over the death of his father. Meanwhile, the federal government delegation led by the National Security Advisor, Babagana Munguno, will meet with governors of the 7 northwest states to discuss a pathway to lasting peace and security in the wake of rising tension in the country. The National Security Advisor said he met with service chiefs, heads of law enforcement, security and intelligence agencies to discuss the threats of kidnapping, terrorism and other security issues threatening the lives and property of Nigerians. He further explains that the decision to strengthen interagency coordination and stakeholders' engagements was reached at the meeting as part of renewed commitment to make Nigeria safe and secure. General Munguno adds that the interagency coordination, stakeholders' engagement and consultation will be adopted to find lasting solutions to the multiple security threats in the country. The Taraba state government has given the United States a pat on the back for helping to mitigate conflicts between herders and farmers, as well as building a safer and more peaceful state. Both have been on a 2-year partnership project to promote dialogue between farmers and herders in the state. This is coming as U.S. aid marks its exit from the state after successful implementation of the said project in 4 local government areas of Taraba.
The conflict between farmers and herders over grazing and farmlands has been a reoccurring problem in many parts of Taraba State, especially during the farming season. Over the years, such conflicts have caused residents to live in fear as there have been threats to their livelihoods.
The activity manager.
This gathering, therefore, is to review the impact made so far in the engagement of local actors to promote peaceful coexistence among herders and farmers, a project supported by the United States Agency for International Development.
It is on record in Nigeria that the issue of farmer-herder conflict has become a sine qua non. It has become an underlining decimal in our quest to nationhood. So this contribution from USAID has helped us in the last 2 years to make our own modest contribution into stemming the tide of that violent conflict in the 4 local governments where we operated, which is Bali, Gashaka, Gasol, and Wukari, and in the 10 local governments that benefit, in 10 communities that benefited from this intervention.
I must also acknowledge that the coming of PAC to Taraba State has been a good omen to us, as we now enjoy relative peace amongst our farmers and herders, especially in those communities where PAC West Africa has been very active.
Representatives from government ministries, Mieti Allah Cattle Breeders Association, Farmers Association of Nigeria, religious bodies and traditional chiefs are among the local actors engaged in the peace project. The beneficiaries say the project has enhanced understanding between both parties and has resulted in fewer or no conflict.
The project came at a time we were having or experiencing crises everywhere between farmers and herders, and the skills between farmers and herders. The skills and knowledge we gain has helped us in taming down the crisis in our communities, and the project has implemented.
With the help of the United States Agency for International Development to put structures and processes in place in local governments where they served, promoting peace and enabling environment for continuous development of the state should be the watchword.
A former governor of Akita State, Ayo has also joined the call for peace and is appealing to Nigerians from all divides to give peace a chance. The former governor also wants Nigerian leaders to change their attitude by speaking to their people and to stop the killings in the country.
So I appeal to Nigerians. Appeal, whether you're from north, south, west, we are all interrelated, interwoven. We've lived together for too long. Let there be peace in this nation. And these activities of our leaders' attitude must change. We must not equally promote this evil continuously. We must speak to our people. It is time to stop killings in our country.
The former governor's statements were made on our political program, Sunday Politics. When the News at 10 returns, and in part 2, Central Bank signs Memorandum of Understanding on Rehabilitation of National Theatre in Lagos. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, to watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Governors of Oyo and Ondo states ask traders in troubled Shasha markets to stop hostilities, just as Vice President Yemi Osinbajo's use for peace. Suspected herdsmen kill 3 farmers at Ijugbere farm settlement in Owo area of Ondo State. Federal government begins consultations, stakeholders engagement and interagency coordination over rising insecurity. And Western embassies caution Myanmar military against use of violence against protesters. The Committee for the Defense of Human Rights has blamed cow owners for the incessant killings of farmers by killer armed herdsmen. In a communique, the group wonders how poor herders can afford AK-47 rifles. It, however, blames insecurity across the country on the president. The CDHR is advocating a realignment of the rearing and feeding of cattle provided for separately by business owners. And in Ondo State, armed men suspected to be herdsmen have killed 3 farmers at Ijugbere, a farm settlement in Owo local government area of the state. The special advisor to Governor Rotimi Akeredolu on agriculture, Akin Olotu, said many farmers in the area are counting their losses as the crops are being destroyed by the suspects. A spokesperson for the Ondo State Police Command, T. Leo Ikoro, also confirmed the killings, but said investigation has revealed that only 1 farmer was killed by the suspected bandits. The police spokesperson adds that a manhunt has been launched to apprehend and prosecute those behind the wicked act. We're staying with crime now. 18 passengers traveling in a bus belonging to the Niger State Transport Authority have been kidnapped by bandits at Yakila village in Rafi local government area of the state. The bandits, however, left behind a woman and her baby. The passengers were said to be heading to Mina, the state capital, from Kotangora, when the incident happened. The Director General of the Niger State Emergency Management Agency, Ahmed Inga, confirmed that he found the woman with her child on his way to Mina. He says efforts are already on by the police to rescue the victims. Other news now. Barely a week after the Federal Executive Council approved the renovation of the National Arts Theatre, the Central Bank Governor, Godwin Emefiele, has signed a memorandum of understanding with contractors for work to begin. The CBN Governor said the refurbishment of the edifice will take about 15 months, while other creative hubs have been approved for reconstruction. Once upon a time, this edifice, which was constructed in 1976, hosted the Festival of Arts and Culture a year later. In the last 45 years, this landmark structure has become a shadow of itself. But now it is about to receive a breath of fresh air as the commitment by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee has reached an advanced stage. About 21 billion naira has been earmarked for the refurbishment of National Arts Theatre, but that is not the only work to be done.
The signature cluster will consist of a building each of music, film, fashion, and ICT verticals. In addition to this, a welcome or visitor center, police and fire stations, and structured parking for up to 500 vehicles will be built.
Similarly, Mr. Mohammed, who has been representative of the federal government from the birth of the idea, gives a hint of what the government hopes to achieve with the handover of the edifice.
For the federal government, this is a win-win situation. Not only will the National Theatre be restored and better managed, upon completion, it is estimated that an additional 600 permanent and 2,000 to 3,000 call-off jobs will be created.
For the Lagos State Governor, the idea is in line with the vision of his administration and gives a hint of what can be achieved with such partnership.
For me, it's not only the National Theatre that I see. I see a transportation solution that has been solved. But more importantly, I see urban regeneration. I see a total transformation in this entire neighborhood. From the Ebutemeta Creek, you begin to see a regeneration that will happen at Otto. You begin to see a regeneration that will happen around Costain. And eventually we'll begin to get to Ijora Badia. Nobody needs to be told that the future that we dream of is beginning to happen here today.
Shortly after is the business of the day, signing of several contract agreements. The edifice is expected to wear a 21st century look in the next 15 months, all things being equal. The SocioEconomic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against the president at the Federal High Court in Abuja over the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. The organization is asking the court to stop President Muhammadu Buhari from using what it describes as draconian provisions of CAMA 2020 to target activists, arbitrarily merge private associations, religious associations, charities, NGOs and professional bodies under part of the Act and remove their trustees. SERAP is seeking an order stopping the President, the Attorney General of the Federation and the Corporate Affairs Commission from implementing the provisions of CAMA 2020, which allow the federal government to arbitrarily and unilaterally cancel or revoke the certificate of registration of any association on flimsy grounds. It insists that the unlawful provisions which will allow the Corporate Affairs Commission to take over the funds of any such association and give such funds to another association in the pretext that the account is dormant. No date has been fixed for the hearing of the suit. A search for vaccines against the COVID-19 pandemic is topping the list of many countries' response to the pandemic, and the Nigerian government is obviously prioritizing vaccine procurement in its response strategies. According to government officials, Nigeria is currently expecting over 58 million doses of vaccines Nigeria is expecting over 58 doses of vaccines through COVAX facility and the African Union platform called AVAT. Our next report assesses Nigeria's capacity to preserve these vaccines upon arrival and ensure that they remain potent.
The number of people infected by coronavirus around the world keeps rising. As at February 11th, over 108 million cases have been reported globally, with over 2.3 million deaths, and in Nigeria over 143,000 cases, leading to the death of 1,710 persons have also been recorded. This explains why countries around the world have intensified efforts to procure vaccines in order to curb the spread of the disease. But Nigeria's hope of getting the Pfizer vaccine was dashed when the COVAX vaccine network announced that the country will not benefit from its first shipment to Africa. Officials of the WHO and the Ministry of Health have been explaining the exclusion.
Nigeria was among the 51 countries globally that were deemed ready, and the decision was just because of the supply. If you look at 1.2 million doses of Pfizer vaccine that were pledged as available, if you divide by 51 countries, you can see what type of amount Nigeria would have gotten, even if it were considered.
Nigeria is currently expecting 16 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Another over 42 million doses of 3 other vaccines are also expected through the African Union. This brings the total number of vaccines expected by the government to over 58 million doses. But the capacity to preserve these vaccines in their unique temperature requirement could be a challenge, even though the government insists it is not.
The vaccines that we know, meanwhile, require 3 types of storage. There is the type that requires an ultra-deep cold chain, ultra-deep freezer storage, minus 80 degrees. That's extremely cold. And that is the Pfizer. You have probably heard also of the Moderna. That one requires minus 20 degrees. That's like a regular deep freezer you have in your home. But the minus 80 is an extreme freezer. Not many countries even have that. But we have some of them in Lagos and Abuja. That's why we can take up to 400,000.
There are only 4 ultra-cold chain structures in Nigeria, spread across 3 cities. These are Lagos, Bauchi and Abuja. According to official sources, these facilities can only store over 400,000 doses of vaccines that requires -80 or even -60-degree temperature. While attention is fixed on setting up primary storage facilities, it is also important that the government pays attention to the logistics for moving these vaccines to the field while maintaining the same required temperature for them to remain potent.
Today marks 1 year since the coronavirus was first detected on the African continent. The World Health Organization says about 3.7 million people have contracted the disease, and the death toll is now about 100,000. Even with these grim statistics, the emergence of variants of the virus has led to even faster transmission of the virus, particularly in the last 2 months. Here in Nigeria, however, authorities insist that until widespread vaccination takes place, the best containment strategy remains strict compliance with COVID-19 prevention protocols. The Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu, told Channels Television's Ladi Akeredolale on our current affairs program Newsnight that even though Nigeria has capacity to track variants, efforts must remain focused on already established procedures.
What we now know is that this variant of concern, the B117 strain, which has been shown to be associated with increased capability for transmission, is definitely circulating in our country. What we cannot say is how much of these new variants are available or circulating in Nigeria. To do that, you need to sequence a lot more. And to increase sequencing capacity is very complex. So we're trying to do a fair bit more than we have done, but there are limits to what we can do. Whether the increased transmission in Nigeria is because of the variant strain, or whether it's because of our behaviors towards the end of last year, or a combination of those, the response is no different. We need to really, until we can say, listen, this is when we'll get the vaccines, which we don't know for sure yet. We need to keep pushing on the very important public health measures that we've been talking about. As difficult as they may be, we have no other alternative. If we don't manage to do this on our own with the measures that are in place, then unfortunately at some point government might be forced to do more.
You can watch the full interview with Dr. Ihekweazu on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow at 9 p.m. Monday, 15th February, right here on Channels Television. When the news at 10 returns, federal government moves to minimize accidents and incessant attacks by Boko Haram insurgents along KanoMaiduguri dual carriageway. Stay with us. Welcome back. The federal government is reiterating commitment to the completion of the KanoMaiduguri dual carriageway in order to minimize accidents and mitigate incessant attacks on commuters by Boko Haram insurgents. The Minister of State for Works, Engineer Abubakar Aliyu, explains that works has commenced on the remaining 40-kilometer between Jakana and Maiduguri that was thwarted by the insurgents.
The dualization of the KanoMaiduguri road was approved by the then President Olusegun Obasanjo administration in 2006 to ease movement of goods and motorists. Section 5, which is from Damaturu to Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, could not be completed due to paucity of funds and attacks by Boko Haram insurgents. Between 2020 and early 2021, many passengers plying the road were killed or kidnapped, while others escaped with various degrees of gunshot injuries. With the support of the military and the local vigilantes, work has now resumed at the remaining 40-kilometer road.
If you could remember, some time back, the insurgent came and burned their machines and killed some of their workers. We have tried our best together with them and the assistance we get from the military and the Borno State government. We were able now to resume the contractor to work on site. For the past, I think, 2 weeks or 3, he's already on site working. If you go now, you will find him working, trying to finish up that area.
In a related development, the Federal Road Safety Maintenance Agency also inspected the rehabilitation of the Potiskum-Kari Road in Yobe State. The Director of Operations of the agency expresses satisfaction with the level of work, but urged the contractor to speed up.
At the end of this exercise, this road will be pothole-free. Commuters will be using the road without much stress, and the travel time will be reduced, cost of vehicle maintenance will be reduced, and the economic well-being of the people will be enhanced.
We intend ensuring that we maintain pothole-free carriageway all over the country, if not possible, at least major carriageway that carry a lot of traffic, conveying goods and services, so that will enhance the economic well-being of Nigerians.
The contractor handling the project explains the work will be completed according to specification and timely. Yobe State, with 75% of its population dependent on agriculture, the construction and rehabilitation of the roads would no doubt ease movement of goods as well as boost the economy of the communities ravaged by incessant armed conflicts.
Meanwhile, the Kaduna State government has commenced the construction of more roads and markets in the state capital and environs as part of its ongoing urban renewal project. Governor Nasir El-Rufai, who inspected some of the projects in the state capital, says the road will link up communities, create more jobs, and attract more investment.
Construction work is going on simultaneously in the 3 senatorial zones. Many of the roads already completed and put into use, while others are in their various stages of completion. Governor Nasir El-Rufai, accompanied by other government officials, inspects some of the ongoing projects to assess the progress made so far. First, they visit the dual carriage Kawo flyover in Kaduna North local government area. When completed, the flyover is expected to decongest the heavy vehicular traffic in the area. It's a busy day for the governor, as he also inspects the road leading to the permanent site of the Kaduna State University, as well as the ongoing bridge that links Banawa in the southern part of the city to Kabala Kastain in the north. He's satisfied with the quality of work.
We are very pleased with the progress, and we are doing our best to meet up with our financial obligations to them. Money is difficult to find, but we'll continue to work hard to find it, to make sure that these projects are being completed. And we'll continue to drive this infrastructural development, and we'll do our best, and those that succeed us will continue. This is just the beginning. Kaduna needs much more than what we are seeing. This is just the beginning, because we've lost 50 years of development of infrastructure in Kaduna.
The project inspection also took the governor and his team to the construction site of the new Kawo market. The market is expected to have several facilities that will enhance the security and comfort of traders and buyers.
Everyone knows that things are cheaper there, but people have been avoiding them only because they do not feel safe and comfortable going there. So we decided to rebuild and remodel most of these markets. Issues like parking that we always have, that's why you find markets looking very rowdy, because people have to park outside. They were not designed with proper parking lots. We don't have fire trucks there. We don't have spaces. The roads were not designed to allow fire trucks go in. So in instances where you have fire, sometimes there's a truck there ready to, fight the fire, but you can't even access those locations.
Apart from opening and linking up communities with each other, Governor Nasir El-Rufai believes that the urban renewal project will also bring the former capital of defunct northern region to its original master plan.
The House of Representatives Committee on Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has pledged to support the commission as a strategic stakeholder in the sustainable development of Nigeria's oil-rich region. Chairman of the committee, Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, made the promise when the committee performed an oversight tour of the NDDC permanent headquarters in Port Harcourt. The lawmaker also asked the NDDC to work towards the transformation of the Niger Delta region for the benefit of the people.
The House of Representatives Committee on the Niger Delta Development Commission is visiting the Commission's office as part of its oversight functions. It's the first time the committee is coming here since its inauguration 2 years ago.
The body language of the new administration shows a determination to take the region to the next level. And the best way to start is to come and see what they are doing currently and whether it is in line with what we have appropriated for them, and try to guide where necessary.
The lawmakers look impressed by what they see on ground, promising every support to make the commission deliver on its mandate.
What we have here on ground now is different from the original impression we have before we came in. So it shows that by one way or the other, the management of NDDC here, as far as what we see on ground here is concerned, they are working. And it is our belief, our firm belief, that we will continue to give them the needed support.
I will want to see a commission that will commission legacy projects. I want to see a commission whereby the needs of the people will be met. I want to see a commission with a clear-cut short-term, mid-term, and long-term project plans, well adhered to, well implemented. I want to see a commission that will no longer be the cash cow.
The Commission's interim helmsman expresses confidence in the promise of support, insisting it's a needed tonic.
It's a great thing to have the legislators around. You know, each time we get to the press to tell people we've done this, most people don't believe us. And you have National Assembly members, particularly the House of Rep members, because they won't blink their eyes for irregularities. So they have come to see, and they are happy with what they have seen so far. So it gives me a whole lot of pleasure that the tide is turning, and we are making a lot of progress.
While they round up their visit, the House of Representatives members suggest there is need for review of the Commission's master plan, which they consider long overdue.
3 days after the death of the first civilian governor of Lagos State, Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, memories of his last moments have been shared with the state governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Governor Sanwo-Olu led a delegation of top government functionaries in the state to the Fidal prayer held for the late Chief Jakonde at his residence in Lupeju area of Lagos, during which the governor personally conveyed his condolences to Chief Jakonde's immediate and extended family members. Before the prayers commenced, the governor held a meeting behind closed doors with the family members of the first civilian governor of the state, during which a close confidant of Chief Jakonde, Engineer Kamal Giwa, delivered 2 messages left for the governor by the deceased. He also extolled the virtues of the first governor of Lagos State, first civilian governor of Lagos State, noting that his legacies will remain indelible.
What he stood for, what he has done, still stands 40 years and beyond. And all of us can still see. Some of you are pretty young, you probably were not opportune to be around there. But for some of us that actually tested his tenacity, his human kindness, his love for the poor, his genuine empathy, his resolve to ensure that the people he governed over get the very best, are testimonials that we all still remember today and are very fresh in our memory. Alhaji Jakonde scored several firsts that even subsequent governors have not been able to match. And I say here with all sense of humility that indeed he's been a builder of our time. He's been a man that has laid the foundation of the Lagos that all of us are attempting and are trying to develop and put these layers on, and that indeed his exit cannot be easily quantifiable. The memories that he has lived with all of us, some of us, will continue to linger for a very long time. And the experience and the learning that we've taken, that we will not just throw it away, and we'll continue to remember him.
And now to the arts. Whenever sculptor Dotun Popola's works are exhibited, art enthusiasts are always wowed. Well, they were once again wowed at one of his exhibitions, says Art Review. Takes a look.
The good vibes which contemporary sculptor Dotun Popola brings to any space is the reason why he's the choice for this opening exhibition of the Art Pantheon in Lagos.
Metala is the exhibition of my series of synergetic metal sculpture. My recent sculptures that I made in the last 2 years. And what we have here is my recent brainchild. And I think they have a lot of stories to tell about our nation.
Scraps and other objects come alive when this artist touches them, making the audience wonder if it was a great idea to discard them in the first place, as they begin to see the items in a different light. But before this transformation, it would have been regarded as just that, trash.
I call him metal energy. He's a young, vibrant artist that exudes so much energy. He has so much resilience. I always tell him, you need to calm down. And he says, maybe when I turn 40, I'll calm down.
Having worked in the art industry for close to 2 decades, the founder, Nana Asuma, brings her experience to bear in putting this show together, as she intends to join other voices amplifying creatives on the continent to reach a wider audience.
Yeah, metal has been a conception for a year. The planning, the organizing and everything. All I could say is they are mind-blowing pieces, because each of those pieces, they have the true meaning, the true definition of what they portray.
Dotun Popola reveals yet another waste-to-wealth journey, and the Art Pantheon intends to dig out others like him, making a difference with their works of art.
And reports reaching us now has it that Lagos State Fire Service is currently battling to put out the fire at the Ido Railway Terminal. According to eyewitnesses, the fire began at 6 this evening. Director General of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, LASIMA, Dr. Femi Okeosointolu, who confirmed the fire outbreak, says no casualty has been reported so far. We'll bring you details of this as we get them. Now, the UK has administered more than 15 million first doses of coronavirus vaccine in the country. According to daily coronavirus figures, the number rose beyond 15 million after over 500,000 people were given their first jab on Saturday. From Monday, the vaccine rollout is expected to include those over 65 and others considered clinically vulnerable. Here's more in the Global Update.
On the 8th of December, just after 6:30 in the morning,
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has hailed what he calls a significant milestone on vaccine administration of 15 million first doses across Britain, fueling calls for the government to start relaxing far-reaching lockdown measures. After becoming the first in the world to approve a vaccine, the government set out an ambitious February 15th target to reach 15 million care home residents and staff, frontline health and care workers, all those aged 70 or over, and the clinically extremely vulnerable. Meanwhile, Lebanon has only just begun its COVID-19 vaccination drive, inoculating the head of critical care at its biggest public hospital, followed by a 93-year-old celebrated Lebanese actor and comedian, Salah Tizani, on Sunday. Battling a sharp spike in infections in recent weeks has overwhelmed its healthcare system. Lebanon took delivery of 28,500 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine on Saturday, the first batch of 2.1 million doses set to arrive in stages. New Zealand has announced a 3-day lockdown in its biggest city, Auckland, after 3 new local COVID-19 cases were reported. The first local infections since late January. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said the level 3 restrictions, which require everyone to stay home except for essential shopping and essential work, repeating the super cautious approach the country has taken over the past year in virtually eliminating the pandemic. Finally, Catalan voters headed to the polls on Sunday for an election that will test the strength of the Spanish region's pro-independence movement, but in an era dominated by coronavirus crisis rather than separatist sentiment. Mask-wearing voters turned up at polling stations that were replete with pandemic precautions, temperatures taken on arrival, election workers in protective suits of visors, separate entrances and exits, hand gel on tap, and floor markings to ensure social distancing.
Western embassies are now calling on the Myanmar military not to use violence following reports armed vehicles have been sighted on the streets. Automatic gunfire has been reportedly heard at a protest north of the country, indicating the military is preparing a crackdown on opposition to the February 1st coup. Earlier, the U.S. Embassy in Yangon advised citizens to shelter in place. Another statement signed by the EU, the United States and the UK called on security forces to refrain from violence against demonstrators protesting the overthrow of a legitimate government. The warning from the United States Embassy in Yangon comes as anti-coup protests take place a ninth day. Thousands took to the streets on Sunday after a fearful night of residents forming patrols to thwart night arrests after the army rolled back laws protecting freedoms. This time, the protesters were joined by engineering students who marched downtown Yangon, the biggest city, wearing white and carrying placards demanding the release of former leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who's been in detention since the military government overthrew her elected government on February 1st. In an interesting twist during the protests, Yangon residents caught and handed over people they suspected of being released criminals over to the police, worried they might instigate violence in their communities. Worries about criminal activity have surged since Friday when the junta announced it would free 23,000 prisoners, saying the move was consistent with establishing a new democratic state with peace, development and discipline and would please the public. As more sections of society join the protests, armored vehicles are seen in certain quarters driving down major roads. One of them was sighted in Yangon on Sunday. The vehicle is believed to be a Ukrainian-made armored personnel carrier, which has been seen in the commercial capital since the coup. Meanwhile, police say arrest warrants have been issued for 7 prominent opposition campaigners and warn the public not to harbour opposition activists fleeing arrest. In sports news, there is still uncertainty over when the 20th National Sports Festival that was scheduled to begin today, February 14th, will hold, as no date has been picked for the Games in April. The recent development is now a huge concern for athletes and participating states who have been eager to compete in the country's biggest multi-sport event. Our next report takes a look at the issues surrounding the recent postponement.
Across some states, preparations were in top gear. Athletes getting in shape with the intention of competing in the 20th National Sports Festival that was to come up on February the 14th. On January the 26th, barely a week to the Games, the host state raises fresh concerns.
And since March last year, you know the financial state of most states, most subnationals and the country. So I guess these are all the things we need to balance. For us as a state, we are willing and ready to host, but we do not have the funds at this point in time to host. That is the plain truth.
With the new concerns raised, the question on the lips of many was, will the Games go ahead on the scheduled date?
Even though Edo State is prepared, the infrastructures, sporting infrastructure are in place, the COVID-19 infrastructure in place, we're mindful of the COVID-19 second wave. And of course, the issue of the cost implication of the postponement. So it's been decided that the sports festival will still hold, but no longer starts this 14th of February.
The constant postponement is now a worry to athletes.
To be honest, it has not been easy because of the regular changing of the dates here and there. So it's kind of making the training like there is some kind of inconsistency in the game.
Yeah, it has not been easy because I remember when we started afresh, the stadium was not open. So we had to train on the road for a lot of discouragement and a lot of circumstances came our way.
Despite the disappointment from the athletes, there are some assurances.
We are going to be hosting this tournament when we needed it most to help to shaping our athletes for the Tokyo Olympics.
No dates have been chosen for the festival in April. It's however hopeful that this time around, the athletes can get to compete in the multi-sports event.
In the English Premier League, Wolves staged a second-half fight-back as Pedro Nieto's sublime strike earned a 2-1 win over Southampton at St Mary's. Danny Ings had put the hosts in front with a brilliant volley. Ruben Neves converted to a penalty kick to give Wolves a lifeline before Nieto's individual strike from an acute angle completed the turnaround. Bruno Fernandes scored a sensational volley for Manchester United to maintain their unbeaten away record, but they could not seal all 3 points against West Brom in a 1-1 draw. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's first Premier League hat-trick guided Arsenal to a 4-2 victory over a leaky Leeds at the Emirates despite the visitors' late rally. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the attacks across the country, promising that his government will protect all religious and ethnic groups, whether majority or minority, in line with its responsibility under the Constitution. And that's it on the News at 10. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Obani. Good night.